Hello, Chillify, I'm ready. My mother, an abusive tyrant at home, and my father, a drunkard on the streets, both died in an accident while divorcing. I, a listless wanderer, unexpectedly inherited a substantial fortune. I dropped out of school, moved to a new place, intending to simply drift through life. Across from my new apartment, the neighbors suddenly taped a notice to my door. It declared, "My son, Leo, is at a crucial stage, preparing for his middle school entrance exams. To ensure an optimal study environment for him, I have the following requirements." The A4 paper was crammed with rules. No Wi-Fi usage, no pets, no walking in the hallway after 9 p.m., no ordering takeout food. When encountering my son, no taking out phones. It wasn't even noon, and I'd already heard loud banging from their door 3 times. I assumed Mr. Kim, the neighbor, was drunk and causing a ruckus again in the middle of the night. I turned over and went back to sleep. Later, when I stepped out to collect a food delivery, I discovered another notice plastered to my door. My son needs internet for study materials. To ensure our network is stable, the entire building is prohibited from using Wi-Fi from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. My son needs quality sleep. No walking in the hallway after 9 p.m. to disturb our rest. My son is afraid of cats and dogs. To prevent him from being startled and affecting his studies, any household with pets must resolve the issue within 5 days. My son is currently on a strict diet. He cannot be tempted by the sight of takeout food or food waste. This floor is prohibited from ordering takeout. My son is at a critical stage. To prevent gaming addiction, when encountering him, do not take out your phone. I immediately tore the notice to shreds, scattering the pieces. Your son's middle school exam? What does that have to do with me? Even for university entrance exams, no one would dare make such bizarre demands. Especially the no takeout rule. There are only 2 units on this floor. I have money, I play games all day, order food, use my phone. Do you really think you can control me? The most laughable part was that he even posted this notice to the residents' group chat, attaching it as a PDF. My son, Leo, is at a critical stage preparing for his middle school entrance exams. All residents in this building must voluntarily comply with the notice I've sent. Building management, please tag everyone in the chat. A few young residents cautiously asked, "How are we supposed to live without Wi-Fi? This is a bit much." Mr. Kim immediately tagged them directly. "If you have an opinion, come and say it to my face." The chat fell silent. He smirked, then emphasized a few points from the notice. "Everyone's afraid of bothering me, but I don't care," I thought. I typed my reply instantly. "Did we give birth to your son? What does his middle school exam have to do with us? Who can tolerate such deranged demands?" The neighbor's unit exploded. "Damn it, do you want to die? Your mouth is truly vile, spewing such venomous words. My son is destined for greatness, a future top scholar. Anyone who interferes with his studies, I'll deal with them permanently. Do you think I don't know where you live? Manager, give me his unit number immediately." I chuckled and sent a mocking dragon emoji. "Come and hit me. I am your father. If your son isn't my grandson, you have no right to interfere with my life." The neighbor continuously sent over 10 voice messages, even cursing my deceased parents. Over 10 friend requests flooded in. I couldn't be bothered. The manager messaged me privately, "Please don't push it too far, Alex. The residents across the hall are not to be trifled with. The entire building knows the previous family had to move out because they couldn't stand it. It's only 1 more year until their son's exams are over. Just bear with it." I suddenly understood why only a few people in the chat dared to speak up, and even they were suppressed. So the neighbor was a stubborn type. But for me, this was perfect. I wasn't short on money. Even just playing games, watching movies, and ordering food felt a bit dull. If I hadn't dropped out, my name would probably still be on the school's honor roll. The neighbor was still raging in the chat. Words like these, I'd heard since childhood, but they didn't leave as much of an impression as my own parents' curses. I'd only moved in for a month and was already encountering such lunacy. Looks like things were about to get interesting. I decided to sleep on it. The next day, I slept until the afternoon. I tried to order food and play games, but nothing connected. Upon closer inspection, my Wi-Fi was cut off. The network list showed all signals available, only mine was disconnected. The manager claimed everything was normal. Then I remembered, prohibited from using Wi-Fi. I didn't need to think twice. It had to be the neighbor. I opened my door. Lo and behold, a small signal jammer sat right between my unit and theirs. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I kicked it 3 meters away and went to knock on their door. Mrs. Choi, with her oily face, opened it. Behind her, Mr. Kim, with his crew cut and fierce expression, peered out. "What is it?" Mrs. Choi grumbled. Mr. Kim looked at me smugly. "What is the meaning of this?" I demanded, gesturing with my chin towards the battered signal jammer on the floor. "Did you put this here?" "What meaning? Wasn't I clear yesterday?" Mr. Kim sneered. "No Wi-Fi usage. My son needs to research study materials, and our network needs to be stable." He glanced at me, his mouth twisted. "Oh, are you sick? What's wrong with us jamming your Wi-Fi? If it affects my son's studies, can you bear the responsibility?" "Do I not have daily life needs? What can this do to you?" I retorted. "Let me tell you, it's lucky I didn't cut off your electricity too. All day playing games, ordering food, living like a parasite. I know you're jealous of my son's good grades. You're jealous, aren't you?" I laughed until my stomach hurt at his brazen unreasonableness. Anyone else would probably have been intimidated, but not me. Before I could say anything, the pot-bellied man started rambling again. "Do you even have the nerve to talk? I know you keep that stinking dog. I told you clearly yesterday, my son is afraid of cats and dogs, and you still haven't gotten rid of it. If you don't take care of it yourself, the next time I see it, I'll skin that dog and hang it on your door." Damn it, this familiar feeling was exactly like my alcoholic father. Whenever he got drunk, he'd spout such nonsense. Reasoning with someone like him was a waste of time. Only my mother, my violent mother, could shut him up with her fists. I couldn't be bothered to say more. I turned, picked up the mangled signal jammer, and hurled it directly into the neighbor's apartment. The jammer flew over the couple's heads, tracing a perfect arc, and landed with a thud on their floor. Before they could react, I slipped back into my unit and shut the door. The pot-bellied man, who moments ago had been smugly convinced of his victory, looked like he was about to explode, his mouth now twisted in rage. "Damn it, you dare to throw it again? Just try me." Good thing I wasn't short on anything but patience. I had replaced my door and windows with the best quality ones when I moved in. Mr. Kim, wearing his worn-out slippers, furiously pounded on my door, but my door remained perfectly unharmed. I pulled out the huge water gun I'd bought years ago for a silly hobby, filled it with water, and opened the small peep door. Looking at Mr. Kim's betrayed face, I smiled what I considered my gentlest smile. His face clearly screamed, "What the?" I raised the water gun and sprayed him directly in the face. A pig-like shriek erupted, accompanied by a torrent of curses aimed at my parents. Mrs. Choi rushed over to check on him. Mr. Kim glared at me, his eyes bloodshot through the iron door. How terrifying, I thought, my hand trembling slightly, then I fired another blast of water. Both husband and wife were now drenched. The solo cursing transformed into a duet. I hummed a little tune, closed the door, and opened my shopping app. A brilliant idea struck me. I immediately ordered a more powerful, wider-range signal jammer. After that, I went to sleep peacefully. The next day, as soon as I stepped out my door, I was assaulted by a terrible stench, a mix of sour, pungent, and even fecal odors. I nearly fainted. I didn't need to look far. Right in front of my door, garbage was piled in a semicircle, various plastic bags, and even organic fertilizer. It was rare to find someone so dedicated to their mischief. Thinking about the sight of them having to clean up every single piece of this trash, I couldn't help but admire their effort. I didn't bother to argue with them. Reasoning with these types was useless. To deal with them, one had to be crazier, tougher, and more roguish. I hired someone to clean my doorstep, then called a suburban farm and ordered a sack of pig manure. That afternoon, the delivery arrived. I didn't care if the couple was home or not. I instructed the delivery driver to open the sack and dump all the pig manure right in front of their door, especially on their doormat. There were even a few pairs of shoes on the mat. The visual and olfactory effect was truly spectacular. That evening, when they decided to go for a walk, they opened their door and discovered a carpet of manure blocking their way. Both shrieked like butchered chickens, unable to bear it, and began to vomit uncontrollably. Through my peephole, I was overjoyed beyond words. Mr. Kim, enraged, kicked his own door, stomping through the pig manure. He lunged at my door, pounding on it furiously. I opened the peep door. He spat in my face and yelled, "Damn it, was that you?" I feigned wide-eyed innocence. "Do what? What are you talking about? Damn it, who else but you would dump pig manure in front of my door? Why would it be me? Did you see me do it with your own eyes? Maybe you dumped it yourself in front of your own door. And honestly, last time, how much trash was thrown in front of my door? Maybe the same person did it." He punched the small iron door, but the door was unharmed. On the contrary, his hand turned red. Money truly was useful. My steel door was unbeatable. Mrs. Choi also emerged, hands on her hips, screaming, "Don't play innocent. Don't think we don't know it was you, you bastard. You're just jealous that our son is smart and will pass his exams. You're just a leech living day to day. Your whole ancestry is trash, giving birth to a useless thing like you. May your whole family die." It was true, my household registration now only listed me. I thought, my heart is too fragile. If I ruin this, there will be no more fun. "I am your father," I said. After that, no matter how the couple cursed and screamed, I just feigned ignorance. "What are you saying? I don't know anything." After all, without evidence, without witnesses, I could deny everything. What could they do to me? The sack of pig manure was indeed effective. The neighbor cleaned it up, but the smell lingered persistently. Their shoes, even after being washed clean, carried a unique aroma. Their son, Leo, was so upset he refused to go to school, forcing them to buy 5 or 6 new pairs of shoes before he calmed down. The building manager, hearing about my triumph, was both admiring and worried. "Alex, that couple is not just anyone. They lost this round, but I'm afraid you'll have a hard time living peacefully now." I just smiled. Who gets the last laugh is yet to be seen. Sure enough, they started their tricks again. The couple was determined to deal with me. Taking advantage of the summer break, they sent Leo back to the countryside. With their son gone, they had even fewer reservations. Coincidentally, my friend also came to pick up the dog I had been dog-sitting, so I also had nothing to hold back. I don't know where they learned it, but the couple found a large speaker and placed it right outside their door, facing directly towards mine. They began their sonic assault from 1 p.m. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. To deal with me, they had even studied my sleep schedule. But I didn't retaliate immediately. I pretended to endure. They blasted loud music for several hours. The entire building complained, but no one dared to confront them directly. As for me, I put on my noise-canceling headphones and played games peacefully for a few hours. It wasn't until midnight that I took action. I dragged out my large Sony speaker set and placed it right by my peep door, pointing directly at their unit. Their music was all old-fashioned, disco-loud, and tasteless. I, however, played an epic, tragic, and magnificent symphony. The sound resonated throughout the hallway. It felt incredible. Inspired, I put on my headphones, played a few more rounds of games, and watched movies, completely ignoring the commotion outside. The neighbors couldn't stand it. Both husband and wife rushed out, pounding on my door and cursing loudly, claiming I was disturbing the peace of the residential area. But I was fine. My headphones were still canceling noise. I even managed a good night's sleep. The next morning, when I woke up, my symphony was still echoing. Good thing I had charged the speakers beforehand. Amusingly, their old-fashioned disco music was also still playing. Of course, this sonic duel eventually ended. Neighbors called the police. When the police arrived and knocked, both our speakers were still battling nonstop. The manager texted me privately, telling me to pretend I knew nothing. Only when the neighbors' music stopped did I decide to show my face. By then, the neighbors had probably already said some unfavorable things to the police about them. Before I could even speak, Mr. Kim belligerently rushed forward, pointing a finger at my face and yelling, "This brat is disturbing the peace of the entire neighborhood." I found it amusing, but maintained an innocent expression, even pulling out a video from my door camera as evidence. Seeing me holding the camera, Mr. Kim jumped up and started cursing in front of the police. One of the officers, his face darkening, ordered him to shut up. He reluctantly fell silent. I presented my case very calmly, offering the video as evidence, plus the testimonies from the neighbors. This left the neighbor with nothing to say. However, the neighbors didn't want to blow things out of proportion, so the police ultimately gave them a verbal warning. I was inherently lazy. If people didn't provoke me, I wouldn't bother causing trouble. In the following days, the neighbors' unit was temporarily quiet, until their son started crying and demanding to return. They had no choice but to bring the boy back to the city. The whole family finally settled down a bit. But children are like their parents. A rotten tree bears rotten fruit. With parents like these, it would be difficult for the boy to become a good person. Sure enough, not long after, a new trick emerged. As I said, I had plenty of money to live day to day. Ordering takeout daily was easy. But for the past 2 days, my takeout orders had mysteriously disappeared. I ate a lot but wasn't fat, and I exercised frequently, so I had to order food multiple times a day. I usually told the delivery driver to leave the food on the shelf by the elevator, but that was a blind spot for my door camera. For 2 consecutive days, several of my meal portions vanished without a trace. I suspected Mr. Kim or Mrs. Choi, but without proof, I couldn't just accuse them. So, the next time I ordered food, I told the delivery driver to deliver it directly to the area covered by the surveillance camera. I wanted to see who dared to steal. Unexpectedly, the person who appeared was different from my guess. When the food arrived, I was lounging on my sofa, monitoring the camera on my phone. A moment later, the neighbor's door creaked open. A plump, round head cautiously poked out, looking left and right, its face chubby and squeezed tight. It was indeed a miniature version of Mr. Kim. Very careful, I thought. I initially thought the couple was up to something again, but it turned out I had caught a little mouse. This time, I didn't do anything. I just quickly went out, picked up the food box, and closed my door, a seamless series of actions. This level of proficiency surely wasn't their first time. All right, if I can't fight the adults, I'll fight the child. They wouldn't even spare a small child like that, truly a model family. A few hours later, I immediately ordered a portion of Xinjiang super spicy fried noodles, demon-level spice. Soon enough, the food was delivered to my doorstep. I laid in wait just like before. The same familiar silhouette, the same familiar action. My food box disappeared into the neighbor's unit. My mood that day was exceptionally good. It was rare that I even thought about going out for a meal. By the time I had eaten my fill and returned, I saw the neighbor couple standing angrily at my door, pounding furiously. Fortunately, I had purchased a good quality soundproof and impact-resistant door. I leisurely approached, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, what brings you two here? Trying to break down my door? This isn't cheap, you know." "Damn it, you fed my son until he ended up in the hospital. Let me tell you, I've already called the police. Just wait to rot in jail, you brat." Mr. Kim screamed at me, even raising his fist to hit me. I had already seen the police car parked downstairs when I came up, so now I understood what was happening. Before he could swing, the police arrived. I feigned fear, cowering behind the officer with a pitiful expression. "Officer, save me. I don't know what's going on, but he's trying to hit me." This scene was truly comical. One of the 2 officers was the same one who had come before. He frowned and told Mr. Kim to calm down. Seeing the police, Mr. Kim deflated but still glared at me indignantly. "Officer, this guy poisoned my son and put him in the hospital." Hearing the word poison, the officer couldn't remain calm. He asked seriously, "The caller said you poisoned their son and he's in the hospital. Is that true?" I hastily cried out, "I'm innocent." I bowed my head, my face filled with grievance. "I'm wrongly accused. I've barely met their son a few times, let alone poisoned him." I said it, but the corner of my eyes, hidden behind my pitiful expression, curved up with amusement. "I don't know what happened, but I'll sue them for slander." I then lifted my head, angrily shouting with such a wronged expression that I looked on the verge of tears. Mr. Kim bristled, while the officer sternly eyed him. "What exactly happened? Explain it clearly." He began to stammer, No, officer. It's this guy who ordered super spicy Xinjiang fried noodles. My son ate it and had to be hospitalized. He did it on purpose. He wanted to poison my son." The officer immediately noticed something amiss. "But how did the food he ordered end up with your son?" "My son ate it, so what? No matter what, he deliberately intended to poison my son. Seeing how difficult it was to explain, he resorted to irrationality. Mrs. Choi couldn't stand it and ran out to join the fray. Before she could finish her sentence, she burst into tears. My son is so young, he's studying for his transfer exams. This scoundrel is truly wicked. He intentionally harmed my son. Heaven won't forgive him. I maintained my pitiful expression. The familiar officer tried to suppress his laughter, clearing his throat several times before silencing the two of them. The other officer turned to me, asking about the takeout food. "What's the deal with the food you ordered?" I replied with an innocent expression. My father was of mixed Hunan and Jiangxi heritage. I can't live without spicy food. I truly don't understand why my super spicy fried noodles ended up in their son's stomach, even though it was stolen. I pretended to suddenly remember and told the police. "Oh, that's right, officers. Recently, my takeout food has frequently gone missing. I don't know who's doing it. Could you help me investigate?" Upon hearing stolen food, the neighbor couple began to avoid the officer's gaze. The familiar officer seemed to recall something. "I remember you have a camera by your door, right?" The couple became even more flustered, quickly saying they wouldn't pursue the matter further. I remained calm. "If necessary, I can provide the evidence right away." As a result, both officers leaned in to watch the video on my phone. The image of the chubby child stealing food on camera was none other than their son, the very one they accused me of poisoning. Still not satisfied, I feigned concern and said, "Officers, the value of the food I've lost amounts to nearly 2,000 yuan. The police didn't say much and immediately decided, "All right, this case can be opened. Both of you, please come with us to cooperate with the investigation." The couple immediately jumped up like cats whose tails had been stepped on, making up excuses. "My son only took your food a few times. How can it be 2,000 yuan? Did you eat gold-plated food? You're clearly trying to take advantage of this opportunity to harm us." Mr. Kim added fuel to the fire, pointing at me. "You brat, just you wait. If I don't beat you to death, I'm not called Kim." As soon as the words left his mouth, the two officers' faces darkened. Mr. Kim had threatened someone's life right in front of the police, crossing a legal boundary. He was immediately handcuffed. Moments ago, he had been as fierce as a tiger, but now he tucked his tail between his legs like a cat. At the police station, I stuck to my story. "I don't know, I'm not aware of anything." The neighbor couple was at their wits' end with me. Their precious son had been caught red-handed stealing. A person like me, with time and money to spare, occasionally enjoyed doing interesting things. For example, evaluating whether a 988 yuan Buddha jumps over the wall soup was truly delicious, or comparing the difference between a 9 yuan and a 499 yuan mapo tofu. All things considered, their son had rather good taste, always targeting the expensive items to steal. As a result, the neighbor suffered a total loss. Not only did they lose face, but they also had to compensate me a sum of money. They probably never expected their mischievous son to bring them such unexpected joy. But the surprises didn't stop there. The mischievous boy returned from the hospital, bouncing around as if he'd never been admitted. He began to hate me, either making a scary face at me or lunging at me provocatively whenever he saw me. Of course, I didn't let him off easy. Every time he lunged at me, I retaliated with a shove. He'd then plop down on the ground and wail. I hadn't realized this boy was so vicious. This time, he even caused a poisoning incident. One day, I was out for a walk and noticed many discarded sausages scattered downstairs. I recalled my friend's Tibetan Mastiff, which I had been watching for 2 days prior. If it were still here, it would certainly have rushed to eat them. I took a stroll around and returned to find a large crowd gathered. Curious, I drew closer and saw a little girl hugging a teddy dog, sobbing hysterically. Next to her was a stray cat having convulsions. The teddy dog was already dead. Listening to the chatter around me, I understood. Both the dog and the stray cat had eaten the sausages and were poisoned. The sausages were definitely laced with poison. Who could be so heartless to do such a thing? Many pet lovers watching were so enraged that they immediately called the police. After investigation, the police found that the sausages contained a lot of rat poison. Someone had definitely done it intentionally. My neighborhood was known for being pet-friendly. Evenings often saw many people walking their dogs and cats. This incident caused chaos and fear throughout the community. Under pressure from residents, the police, in cooperation with the building management, quickly found the culprit. It turned out to be the neighbor's son. Everyone's anger exploded this time. No one held back. A crowd rushed to their door and pounded on it. The couple was no pushover, however, battling the crowd with words without flinching. Even with the police, they tried to deny responsibility. "It's just a mischievous child. It's not murder. What can you do?" The police were also helpless. Besides criticism and education, they couldn't do much more. The family of the girl who lost her dog didn't dare to get entangled with them, so they just comforted their daughter and found a place to bury the dog. The kind girl even buried the poisoned stray cat. After everyone dispersed, I learned that the neighbor's son had actually intended to poison my dog, but they didn't know that dog was only staying for a few days and had already been returned. I genuinely loved dogs and cats myself. I just hadn't adopted any since I was only a caretaker. The fact that their actions, aimed at me, had caused suffering to that little girl made me even angrier. A spoiled, ill-behaved brat, further emboldened by his parents' protection, feared nothing. I never claimed to be a gentleman. Whether child or adult, if they deserved to be dealt with, I wouldn't hold back. A child with such a dark heart, I had no qualms about teaching him a lesson. The neighbor's family constantly emphasized the importance of the transfer exams. School hadn't officially started, but tutoring classes had. They sent the boy there to study. I had been secretly observing him for many days. The boy, supposedly destined for greatness, was always skipping class, getting into fights. He was only in 6th grade but had been smoking for 2 years, bullying girls, and stealing pocket money, all sorts of mischief. Parents of the bullied girls who came to school to complain were also threatened by the boy's parents until they gave up. I wanted to play a dark-on-dark game with him. I hired a few older delinquent students, telling them to beat the boy whenever they saw him until he cried and didn't dare to go to school anymore. 500 yuan per persona, some enough to make these middle school students work enthusiastically. In just 1 week, the boy's face was bruised and battered. He would tuck his tail and run whenever he saw me. I even specifically told them to hit his face hard so it would be obvious. When he saw me, he didn't dare to smirk. A slight movement would make his facial muscles hurt, and he couldn't even manage a crooked smile. I, meanwhile, happily watched him and smiled. As for his mother, she called the teachers every day, cursing them and accusing the school of doing nothing, saying her son was being bullied and no one was intervening. Hearing this only made me more amused. I gave each of my associates an extra 200 yuan. The middle school students worked even harder. They were even smart enough to use 50 yuan to hire delinquents from other schools to do the beating, completing their task while pocketing the difference. I didn't care if it was black or white, as long as the mouse was caught. The boy's reign of terror was over. Every day, his body was covered in new injuries. A week passed, and he no longer dared to strut around. He avoided people whenever he saw them. The couple made a scene at school, but nothing came of it. Beating the boy too much wasn't good anyway. It was summer break, and he would only be in 6th grade next semester. The neighbor couple decided to take their son out of school entirely to avoid further beatings. I enjoyed a peaceful afternoon playing games, giving my associates an additional 200 yuan each, hoping for future collaborations. The next few days were indeed peaceful. The neighbor was busy dealing with their own affairs and had no time to cause trouble. But then, somehow, the news leaked. Mr. Kim showed up again, pounding on my door in the middle of the night. I opened the peep door, phone in hand, calmly recording. "I'm recording, you know. What are you planning to do? Even if you sell your apartment, you won't be able to compensate me." He pulled out a baseball bat from somewhere and delivered 2 more blows to the door. "What? You dare to bully my son, don't you? I know everything. You hired thugs to beat my son, didn't you? If you're so tough, come out and fight me one-on-one. What kind of man bullies a child?" I wasn't afraid at all. The money I gave my associates was all cash, leaving no trace. Still maintaining an innocent expression, I replied, "I don't know, I'm not aware, it's not related." Of course, he didn't believe me. He swung the bat wildly. I couldn't be bothered. I picked up my phone and called the police. Not long after, he was escorted to the police station for the second time. When he couldn't be tough, he resorted to playing subtle tricks. I went on a business trip for a few days. When I returned, I thought I had gone to the wrong floor. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I stood dumbfounded, then recoiled. It looked nothing short of a pigsty. In front of the neighbor's door, he had erected a tall iron fence, completely enclosed like a rural farm. This fence encroached on my doorway, leaving just enough space for a doormat. He had even extended the fence all the way to the ceiling, leaving only about 3 meters between our doors, making it difficult for me to even open my own. He'd rather inconvenience himself than let me live in peace, I thought. After a few exhausting days of work, I ignored everything and went inside to sleep. But when I woke up and opened my door, I discovered the neighbor had upped the ante. They had wrapped electrical wires around the iron fence. I didn't want to risk my life, and with the fence blocking my door, I couldn't knock directly. So I asked the manager to call Mr. Kim. He didn't answer. The manager had no choice but to text him, demanding he remove the fence. His reply was a smug voice message. I paid to install it. If you dare to remove it, you'll owe me at least 20,000 yuan. Don't bark nonsense in front of me. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I just called the police. By now, the process was familiar to both me and him. I knew the drill for presenting the cause and evidence by heart. When the police arrived, Mr. Kim, though unwilling, had to show his face. This action clearly violated fire safety regulations, not to mention the danger from the electrical wires. As a result, he was invited back to the police station for the third time this month. 3 times in the station this month. Mr. Kim had certainly taken enough losses. He, his wife, and their young son were all quiet for a while, but I wouldn't allow this family to rest easy. This calm before the storm made me feel like every time our eyes met, he wanted to devour me alive. If I didn't rarely go out, I was sure they would try to drag me into the small bamboo grove near the building and beat me. Occasionally, when I went for a walk, I also felt like someone was secretly following me. Instead of waiting for things to escalate, I decided to act first. Knowing the building wasn't soundproof, I deliberately spoke loudly to a neighbor. This weekend, I'll be away for 2 full days, not home. That afternoon, I secretly contacted my old associates to ask for their help in staying vigilant. The first day, everything was fine. Although I felt like someone was lurking, when I turned around, I saw nothing. On the second day, things started to get unusual. I deliberately chose a time when the area was deserted and went for a walk in the small bamboo grove. Suddenly, a strong force pushed me to the ground. I looked up. 3 masked, hooded men glared at me menacingly. The tallest and fattest among them, even with his face covered, I recognized immediately, Mr. Kim. He had enlisted 2 others for help. This spot had no cameras. He certainly knew how to pick a location. I pretended not to recognize him, constantly pleading, "Sir, please just tell me what's wrong. I'm normally very friendly with everyone. I don't have anything valuable on me. Hitting people is against the law." He couldn't restrain himself. He raised a stick and brought it down directly on me. How rude to resort to violence like this. I swiftly slapped him across the face, then delivered a kick to his ribs. These 2 blows were enough to send him sprawling to the ground, like a fish on a cutting board, trying to wriggle but unable. It was truly laughable. Did he think I was useless before? When I was making waves, he probably hadn't even emerged from obscurity. Mr. Kim tried to rush forward, but his stomach was too big, the resistance too great, and his movements were as slow as a snail. I merely casually parried, the baseball bat falling from his hand. Then I delivered another kick straight to his face. Just then my reinforcements arrived. 7 or 8 tough guys, no pushovers. The shouts of "Stop hitting" were truly music to my ears. He and his 2 accomplices huddled together like boiled shrimp, trembling on the ground. Mr. Kim indeed knew how to pick a spot. This area had no cameras and was deserted. I slowly walked towards him. He screamed in fear, "Hitting people is against the law. Society has laws. What are you going to do?" Seeing him yelling as if he were the victim, I laughed until my stomach hurt. That's enough, I thought. I delivered 1 more kick, then turned and walked away. But back home, I felt a slight regret. These dark-on-dark types wouldn't dare call the police. It was a rare chance to vent, and yet I had been too lenient. The next morning, after my business was done, I slept comfortably. When I woke up, the residents' group chat had exploded. Everyone was excitedly discussing Mr. Kim's predicament. It turned out his wife had waited for ages for him to return home. When she went out to look for him, she found him and two other men curled up miserably in the bamboo grove. Her screams attracted the entire neighborhood. The emergency exit was blocked by someone, so the three men had to be stretchered around half the neighborhood to reach the ambulance. As a result, the entire community knew about it. Everyone talked about Mr. Kim being beaten until his face was bruised and one leg was broken. Although he was in pain, the neighbors benefited. They had several days of peace. His wife and son were sent back to the countryside. People no longer had to worry about their pets being poisoned, nor did they have to live according to his family's whims. Everyone hoped they would move out soon. But unfortunately, Mr. Kim was discharged from the hospital after a few days. The whole family returned. His two accomplices also came to stay with him. I wasn't afraid of anything, but I was woken up by banging and smashing. I opened the peep door to see Mrs. Choi smashing my camera and door lock. What is this crazy woman doing now? The other two men also came out, bats in hand, smashing my door and shoe cabinet. Mrs. Choi stood there, her eyes full of defiance. Today, I'm smashing your door. My husband was beaten to this state, and I haven't settled the score with you yet. I merely tilted my head and smiled faintly. No problem, madam. Smash away. Once it's smashed, you'll pay for it, or maybe we'll discuss it after you're done smashing. She flew into a rage, demanding compensation. Don't dream. I haven't even made you pay for my husband's hospital bills. Their entire family was truly not very smart. Firstly, I had complete confidence in my door. Secondly, I knew there was a hidden camera outside the door. They thought by destroying the main camera, I wouldn't have evidence. Was I their father that I should pay for her husband's hospital bills? What did her husband getting beaten have to do with me? Perhaps he did something that deserved it. She didn't dare say much. This was a dark-on-dark game, and they had no advantage. In a fit of anger, she grabbed a pot of unknown liquid, intending to splash it through my peep door. I quickly slammed the door shut and called the police. Sometimes, letting others take action is easier than handling it yourself. Those two men were originally from the countryside. They always had an instinctive fear of the police and authorities. This time, Mrs. Choi was arrested for intentional assault. The liquid she carried was identified as concentrated acid. Intentional assault with a dangerous substance was no laughing matter. When the verdict came, I had a good night's sleep. Waking up the next morning, I found they had moved out. They moved out faster than I expected. Without the crazy neighbors, life seemed to lack a bit of excitement, but all in all, it was better without them.